And we are back with another episode of Upward and Onward Podcast. We are featuring our guest, Zack Levesque. He is the managing director of North Point Bank. He has been a contributor on the Rhode show, the creator of Power Podcast, and also the ring announcer of CES MMA. I myself look at Zack and I see a true-born leader, and I also see someone who gives back to the community. An example of that is me being in this space right now. Without Zack, I wouldn't be here, and I thank him every day for giving me an opportunity to harness my creative spirit and come to this space and give you guys some content. With that, I think if you guys stick around long enough, you might hear Zack's best impression of Bruce Buffer, and we'll get his "It's time!" But no promises.
Can't say that. He has that trademarked.
Nuh-uh.
Well, you can. I can't say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. The more you know.
Yeah.
Well, Zack, thanks for being here. Thanks
Sure.
for allowing me to be here too. How's it going?
It's going great, man.
Yeah?
You know, I appreciate the intro, and I didn't realize I did that many things, so maybe I should,
Maybe
I got to go.
Gotta go. Yeah, you gotta go. I think you're busy. You're too busy for me.
That's all good. I'm just playing.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, and thanks for joining us. I think what would be helpful is if you could take us back a little bit, because now it's 2023, but your journey in mortgage banking started way before here. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experience and some of the things that you have been a part of?
Yeah, so mortgage-wise, I started in 2003, fresh out of college. I'm a graduate of Quinnipiac University. Back then, it had a pretty good name, but now Quinnipiac, number one hockey program in the country right now.
That's right.
Quinnipiac.
That's right. That's really cool.
And actually, my freshman year was the first year that Quinnipiac had a hockey program in
wow.
Division I. So very efficient rise to the top for Quinnipiac. But got out of college in 2003, a long time ago. I don't want to talk about it.
Hey,
but
fine.
I got into mortgage finance in 2003, kind of inadvertently had an opportunity, wasn't sure if it would be the perfect position for me, but learned a lot in a short period of time. And I've been through a lot of ups and downs in the market, 07, 08, the financial crisis. There's so many ebbs and flows when it comes to finance and mortgages, but being in the mortgage industry for so long has given me a unique perspective of everybody's finances, debt, what to do with money, what not to do with money. And ultimately, I think I was lucky to get into that space because it's really been a springboard for me in the finance and real estate realm to develop and do things a little outside of just my primary, which, as you can see, I kind of have my hands in a couple different things.
I can see. Yeah. I don't know. When do you sleep? Do you sleep from like 5 to 6?
I actually sleep okay, but I have a 6-month-old at home, so that's the biggest hindrance in sleep right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I think sleep's a little overrated, and I'm not one of those guys that is like, hey, I sleep 3 hours, but what do you really need? You need 6 hours of sleep? You don't really need that much sleep. So
that's fair.
I try to get to bed early enough, and I try to wake up early and just smash a day every day.
I can tell because I see you up every morning. You're posting content, you're doing your thing, and it's like before I get up, and I'm like, okay, I think this means that I got to get up earlier.
Yeah, and you know what? it wasn't always like that. I think sometimes in life, people don't see the signs in life or remember the lessons, and a lot of when I have these conversations, I talk a lot about reading and how reading has influenced me and just different people's perspectives on life and things that they've been through. But actually getting up earlier has changed my life, and it sounds silly and goofy.
Interesting.
But if you look at those high level executives, the people that you probably emulate, they probably drink less than you. They probably read more than you. And me too. Me too. Yeah. They probably get up earlier than you. Yeah. They probably might work harder than you. Work harder than me.
Yeah. It's fair.
So getting up a little earlier was a big benefit for me.
I see.
So I'm not up at 4 a.m.
Okay.
I try to get up by 6.
Okay. What time do you go to bed, if you don't mind me asking?
I try to fall asleep by 10. So, and listen, if I'm sleeping by 10 and I'm up by 5:30, that's 7 to 7.5 hours. That's right? More than actually most professionals say that you really need.
Interesting.
And if you're out there listening and you're like, I don't know if I can get up at 6, you just have to condition your body and your mind. And they say that to form new patterns in life and getting used to new things, I think it's like 22 to 24 days.
Interesting.
Before your body accepts it and you can
build a habit.
Move on. Correct. To build a habit.
I see. Good to know. So with being somebody who has, you wear a couple different hats, outside of just maybe not having to sleep that much, what else has been beneficial for you to transpire into this person that just is able to do this and do that and be, present with all of those things?
It's a good question, and I don't think there's any perfect answer to that, because I think everybody is different when it comes to life balance, work, executing what they need to on a daily basis. But for me, having a more complex lifestyle and business life and running multiple companies, I really stay present. You say present. So I am present wherever I am, but I try to stay on task with everything. And it doesn't mean that I don't need 10 or 15 minutes to veg out, or, I have a TV in my office. Maybe I just put the phone down for a minute and just close my eyes for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's always time to do things like that, but I try to stay on task. I try not to waste time. And I always try to be present and just realize that not everything needs to be done that second. I think when it comes to life and it comes to people's whatever space they're in business-wise, everything's at our fingertips. Emails, text, direct messaging.
That's
you
right.
know, people. I don't have TikTok.
No?
I just have
Good.
Instagram and Facebook. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
But everything is right there, and we just have developed this attitude as a society that everything has to be
Instant.
And you know what? It just doesn't.
I agree.
And I think that sort of mentality is changing a little bit, and I think it's hurting people and it's hurting relationships.
I agree.
So I try to take a step back from the device.
Yeah.
And listen, I always answer emails, but an email doesn't need to be answered in 38 seconds.
I agree. Yeah.
So staying on task with what you're actually doing at that point is the most important, rather than jumping around. So, I came in today. I knew there was certain things that I needed to do. Obviously, meeting with you, I'm meeting with somebody later, and actually doing a podcast for him as well.
Nice.
But in between, I have a million things to do.
Yeah.
So it's just I never get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you look back at school. I remember getting overwhelmed with tests or midterms or finals, right?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I have like nightmares about, like,
Oh,
I wake up
believe
and I'm
it.
like, I have that final.
Cold sweat. Yeah. Oh, man.
But the way that I got through that when I was younger is just taking one at a time. You're taking one thing at a time, compartmentalizing it. So I have to do these 14 things today.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do all 14 at once. I'm going to do one at a time.
Makes sense.
So staying on task and just not wasting time, because I really, I don't have time to waste.
I believe it. And thank you for spending some time with us.
Of course.
Thank you so much. So, being in the mortgage banking industry, the markets are always changing, and especially now, the markets are rapidly changing, I would say. Yeah. How do you stay up to date with the trends, and are there any key metrics that you track to kind of gauge your own perception of the market?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that, I try to always watch, and as much information as I can gather that's, pertinent to the people that I work with, our sales, our operations at North Point, and also our clients, our realtors, because realtors are kind of our clients too.
Yep.
And number one, if you go into my office, and I know you've been into my office, my TV is always on. I don't even know where the remote is to control the channel because it always stays on Squawk Box on MSNBC.
Is that right?
I'm a big stock guy. I pay attention to stocks, the stock market.
Yeah.
And the stock market is a very important piece of, finance and mortgage rates. It's all interconnected.
That's right.
So because I'm a stock guy and because I'm a mortgage guy, that always stays on.
I see.
And people will come in, oh, you should, I love Tiger. Tiger's teeing off.
Yeah.
You're gonna? No, I don't have time. I'm not gonna put Tiger on.
Wow.
Like, I can watch it later, but
Yeah.
when I'm in my office, I'm locked in. I'm not blasting the volume, but that's always on the back.
Yeah.
It's always on the back burner. It's always there visually. And if something pops up important, I'll pay attention, especially if it's related to housing and finance.
Yeah.
So to answer your question specifically, I'm always paying attention to what the stock market's doing, always paying attention to what the Fed is saying, unemployment numbers, the 10-year Treasury. Generally, the 10-year Treasury is a good indicator of what's going to happen with mortgage rates. Not always, but usually if the 10-year Treasury goes up, you're going to see a negative impact on mortgage rates. And conversely, if the 10-year is going down, you're going to see mortgage rates come down. But right now, you hear the word inflation. The only thing that I'm paying attention to right now, really, regarding interest rates is inflation. Because the Fed's only weapon to fight inflation was to raise rates.
Yep.
And we're not going to see mortgage rates come down probably until inflation is under control.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. So if you're in the market and you're trying to play the market, which is impossible because nobody knows what's going to happen.
That's right.
Pay attention to inflation and any of the reports regarding inflation and whatever Jerome Powell says for the Fed regarding inflation.
That's right. I've learned that over the past couple of years, I've gotten into investing in stocks myself, and especially during the pandemic, just being cooped up in the house and not having many places to go to spend money. I figured investing in stocks was a good option, and I realized that what Jay Powell, I call him sometimes Jay Powell, Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. What he says is extremely important. I think markets are moving like as he speaks when he's speaking.
Real time.
Real time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think if anyone's interested in investing, it's very important to pay attention to what the Fed says, like Zach has said, but also to have your own analysis.
Yeah, and Jerome, it's important to listen to Paul when it comes to stocks, but also I will, not to get into the weeds of stock investing, stock trading. I'm not a day trader, but I do a lot of option trading, and I do buy and sell, but just more long-term positions and moves. The best returns that I've really ever received in trading over the last 15, 18 years are always something that I've either paid attention to, or you look at popular culture, you're just paying attention. So sometimes, to your point, you have the chart readers and here's what's going to happen. There's an inverted cowbell, all these crazy things that, and a lot of times the chart readers can be right.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just paying attention to what's hot, especially if it's a publicly traded company. If your friends or somebody in your life or somebody keeps talking about the same thing and it's like, ooh, buzzword, I keep hearing that.
Yeah.
Look into that company. Maybe it's a good time to buy.
That's right.
I've had really good results with stock buys when it comes to that, just paying attention.
Yeah, I believe it. So if somebody's out there and they're just thinking about investing in stocks, they've never invested before, could you give us 3 that you would recommend? I know maybe SPY, is a great first investment for somebody, but are there any outside of that right now that you think?
And SPY that's a S&P ETF, which is basically the index of the S&P 500.
That's right.
So a couple things. First of all, I'm not a financial advisor, so anything that I say cannot be held against me.
That's right.
These are just my suggestions. If you're getting into stock trading, I wouldn't go with anything super volatile. Stay away from crypto. Stay away from anything like, the Reddit forums and the whole GameStop fiasco.
Yeah.
That trading it didn't even make sense.
I agree.
So if you were getting into stock trading, I would concentrate on the big companies, the companies that have been there for a while, potentially companies that pay dividends like a Verizon. It's good to have a dividend and get paid as you own the stock without selling it. So my biggest holdings have always been tech related. Apple and Facebook. Facebook is now Meta.
Yep.
So companies like that, people love Costco. Companies that have a good history, they treat their employees well, and they're considered great companies. And also what most people suggest, not financial advisors, because it's actually free to do this, just investing in the S&P 500.
That's right.
The Standard & Poor's 500. These are your best companies right now.
Agreed.
They vet them a lot, and they add and subtract companies from the S&P.
Yeah.
Just buy the S&P 500.
That's right. And over time, I think it's
safe and a great return.
Exactly. Like an average of, you could say 10%, but maybe, it varies around there.
Ebbs and flows, but it has consistently made money for the last, 50 years?
50 years, yeah. It's amazing.
Almost every year, I think.
That's right, which is amazing. So there you go. If you guys are interested in investing in stocks, a little bit of some experience from Zach and some of the things that he's been into, and, maybe you'll be able to make some money yourself. So, Zach, I look at you and I see a leader, and I've listened to your Power Podcast episode 1 with Ed Cooley, and it was really focused a lot around
Ed stole that show, though. Ed was like awesome.
He is awesome.
He's awesome. Much sharper and smarter than people probably give him credit for.
I believe it. What's funny is I've seen him a couple of times, and I've never shook his hand, but I've been going down the escalator coming from the Providence Mall, and he's going up it, and I'll just be like, "Hey, Coach Ed," and he's like, "Hey," and then I see him at Murphy's Pub right here, and he walks in, and this was when they were in the NCAA tournament last year, and I was so excited to see him. I just had this outer body experience where I was sitting at a table with my girlfriend, and I got up, and then he looked at me, and he must have been with someone else.
Wonder what you're gonna do, man.
Yeah, he looked around, and then he got up and left, and I was like, okay, you know what? I gotta chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
I gotta chill
Stalker.
out. Yeah, stalker. So I'm like, dang it, did I blow with Ed Cooley? But either way, leadership. What's your philosophy around leadership? What are some people who you've looked to and adopted some of the mentalities of them, or some of the things that they do well, and some of the things that you've seen that aren't so great in leadership that you've maybe, tuned your leadership style to?
Yeah, leadership. I've been around. Whether it be somebody that I saw, on TV, I pay attention to stocks, so I pay attention to a lot of CEOs, and even personal experiences. A leader to me, when I think of leaders, I think of like an analogy, like front of the house, back of the house. Because I used to work at a restaurant when I was young.
Really?
When I was in college, I was a waiter, busboy. Started
Nice.
out whatever.
Nice.
And they say front of the house, back of the house. So back of the house is they're in the kitchen.
That's right.
Front of the house, a lot of times you have a business owner, and front of the house means they're out there, they're shaking hands, they're seating people, they're putting front of the house, back of the house. So in my experience, the best leaders are front of the house leaders. Not that they're not doing the things required behind the scenes, but a leader and an owner who is willing to do whatever is necessary to give a good experiences to his clientele, and even more importantly, willing to do what every other employee that works for him or her does. I see it a lot in the restaurant world, and a lot of the restaurants that I go to, many in Providence, owners greet you. Yeah, we'll put a napkin on your lap. We'll refill your water. Yeah, that's a great sign of leadership. Yeah. They're doing everything necessary, and they're also doing everything that they've asked anybody in that building to do, for that company. And not to make it about restaurants, but that's just leadership in general. Leadership is, obviously there's so many things required. You have to motivate people. You have to teach people, but you also have to make people understand that it's not all about you. It's about the team. It's about everybody, and you have to be authentic about it. Yeah. There's a lot of people that aren't authentic about it. And there was a story in a book that I read, and I don't want to mention who the story was about specifically, but it was about a banking executive a long time ago. Okay. And I can't remember, maybe it was 15 years ago. Okay. And this banking executive the building was in New York, their corporate offices. And the banking executive, the CEO at the time, he had a separate elevator that he would ride up to his office.
Interesting.
Right? So beautiful building, downtown Manhattan. There's probably 8 elevators because this is a huge firm. And all the employees from top to bottom, from the lower level employee to the top, would ride these elevators. There was one elevator in the building that was only utilized by the CEO. Wow. And that really got people upset. And it ended up being almost his downfall and that just shows he was disconnected. That's putting yourself in a different light and image from your employees. Yeah. And although it's something simple as riding the elevator, it basically speaks so much to that person's character. I'm too good to ride the elevator with you guys. Yeah. So I'm going to ride my own elevator so that I don't even have to see anybody. Think about that. That elevator would open to his office. Wow. He wouldn't even be able to walk through the hallways.
Oh, wow.
Part of a leader, CEO, how about you ride the elevator? Yeah. Maybe hold the door for one of your employees, right? Have a conversation, walk through the halls, say hi to everybody.
That's right.
And listen, I'm sure he retired a very wealthy man, but still, that's not a leader. Yeah. That's fair. He may have done other things besides that have helped people, but ultimately, to me, that's a really big indication that you're missing something as a leader.
That's right. That's right.
And I remember that story that I read in a book, and every day, especially at North Point, where I run the offices here in Providence, I think about that every day.
Interesting.
It's really important for everybody to feel like they're an integral part of the team, because they really are, especially if you want to do something special together.
I agree. Thank you for that. That's an interesting story. Oh man, if I had,
it's wacky.
It's wacky.
It's wacky.
It's wacky. I don't like it, but
no, I agree.
Hopefully, he's doing well now, and maybe
I'm sure he's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's okay.
That's fair. So speaking about leadership, and I know you've been in positions of management and leadership for quite some time now. Has there been any scenarios where it's been a challenge for you, and how you've navigated through that challenge? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, mainly as far as my day job with North Point. There's so many ebbs and flows in our industry, and if you've been paying attention to what's happened over the last 8 or 9 months, we've seen the most historic rise in interest rates that I've seen in my 20 years in the business, 19 years in the business, excuse me. Mm-hmm. So right now, as a leader, over time, you're required to do different things. depending on what's happening in your business, what's happening in the economy, in the world, etc. And right now, it's really just keeping everybody's spirits up, keeping the energy there, and making people understand that the hard work that you do now and continue to do will pay off. It might not be a short-term payoff, but in my industry, there's a lot of people leaving the industry. There's a lot of mortgage people, real estate people walking around with their heads down.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Yeah.
How does that help
That's
you?
fair.
It doesn't. So I wanna be that energy booster, which I am, and I come in every day. I'm working harder now than I did 2 years ago.
I believe it.
When we did 4 times the amount of transactions. I'm working harder now. Yeah. Not because it's really, I guess it is required, but I also want to set an example for my people. This is not time to walk around with your head down and just wait for things to change. How about we make things change internally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. And I think that's even applicable in the industry that I'm in. I work in the tech sector and I'm a tech lead of a team. So, to a certain degree, I am a leader in my own right. And it's very important because people who are on even my team or outside of it, you can feel some of the stress and pressure of just hearing about tech layoffs and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so important to come in with great energy and really have that sense of companionship, that sense of camaraderie that you can harness in a team so that everyone can stay focused. Despite all of the outside factors that are going on, you can stay focused and you guys can execute on your goals. So I'm going to take some of the things that you mentioned and apply them to what I do in my day-to-day. And I hope that some of the viewers, you also do the same. Thank you for that portion.
Sure.
So I know that you have been a part of a couple of boards in Rhode Island. I want to ask, what inspired you to become a board member? What's your experience been like? Has it been fun? Is it something that you think you'd recommend to someone else like myself? And what's your overall sentiment?
Yeah, I think, any of the boards that I've joined, currently I'm not on one right now, but it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with helping whatever the company or cause was. And most of the boards that I've been involved with were more, not companies, but organizations, a lot of them benefiting people, trying to raise money. So the biggest thing with getting involved with something like that, it is very time intensive.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you have the time to do it, because otherwise it's not worth it for the individuals bringing you in, and it's not worth it for you because, you don't want to put time or commit to something that you really can't see to fruition.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I've stepped away a little bit from that only because I just didn't have the proper time. And the type of individual that I am, like if I'm in, like I'm all in.
I can tell.
Yeah. So like if right now I can't be all in on those type of things. Yeah. And also, the personal side, I just had my first son, like that takes a lot of time and energy too. So guess what? I'm on the board of my son Chandler right now.
You are on the board. You are the executive board member, the one of two.
That he is my number one focus right now.
As you should be. That's a blessing. Congratulations
Thank
again.
You.
Yeah, how's that been, especially with, managing all of these different things that you're into and then having a son and, that requires time and attention. How do you balance things? And I listened to your episode with Jimmy Birchfield.
Yeah.
On
great guy.
Yeah, great guy. Great talk that you guys had here. And how do you balance things now that you have a child and all that?
Well, I think it just, that balance continually changes and there's and Jimmy and I talked about it on that episode, there's no perfect balance in life, and mainly because life just continually changes and things happen and bad things happen, good things happen, changes happen, people pop into your life, out of your life.
Yep.
So really the only, when I knew I was going to have a son, I made some changes personally leading into it. And since I've had a son, it's mainly just, I'm doing more lunches and dinners. I'm trying to be home more. Yeah. I'm drinking less.
That's good. Yeah.
Actually, this is day 29. I did a 30-day no booze.
That's awesome.
And I'm not a big drinker, but I just wanted to push it aside for 30 days just to see how I feel.
Yeah.
So it's really with him, it's just being home more, and on the weekends we don't plan anything. We just spend time with our son. We might catch a PC game like they're playing Villanova.
I was going to ask you about that.
Saturday.
What do you think?
Villanova, the PC. We're undefeated at home.
Okay, all right.
Undefeated at home.
I saw the stats recently, and I was like, whoa, they've won like every game at home.
Yeah, and Villanova's not the strong Villanova that we're used to.
That's
so
right.
Still a good team, but PC, I think PC rocks them.
Is it Jay Wright who was the coach of
Yeah, and he left.
He
so
left.
Villanova's, a little bit of a rebuilding, and
Okay.
that's a big coach to lose.
That's right. Let's crush him. Let's crush him tomorrow, boys.
I think we will.
Let's
I
do
think
it.
we will.
I have a question. When you think about the building that the Providence Friars play in, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Loud.
Okay. When you think of the name of the building, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, it's AMP now.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
But I think of the dunk. I don't know. That's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I actually, it's funny that you bring this up because I was thinking, I think AMP will resonate.
Yeah.
I just think you've been saying the dunk for so long.
So long.
And the dunk is cool, but I have to say, AMP is a pretty cool pivot, right?
Yeah, that's
the
fair.
Amica Mutual Pavilion, like AMP. I
can
think
get behind that.
I think in 2 years,
Yeah,
it's going to be the AMP too.
I like that. I like
Just needs to resonate a little bit.
That's fair. I'll let it.
But if
stew.
it was like, I think they needed to transition to something that made sense.
That's
AMP
true.
is pretty good.
I like
because
it.
it had to be Amica, right?
Yeah.
Amica Mutual.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's a plug for Amica.
Yeah, plug for Amica.
Need to be a sponsor,
I
Amica,
think
right?
so. Come on, give us something over here. No. So Zach, you recently announced that you are now the ring announcer of CES MMA, and that's a super exciting opportunity. On Saturdays, me and my friends, I'll shout out to John Alsfeld, John Jez. We've been watching UFC for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a great sport. And now that you're the ring announcer, how did this opportunity come about, and what excites you about it?
So Jimmy Birchfield Jr., who you mentioned before, he's the principal owner at CES MMA and boxing. So there's two divisions: there's the MMA and the boxing. Full disclosure, I'm probably more of a boxing fan, maybe. I was really into Floyd Mayweather, his career. I've actually been to 2 of his fights in Vegas,
Really?
what an experience to
Did
see
he get
him.
touched? I mean, the guy's like...
I saw him against Maidana.
Okay.
He's just like, and I was very close at that fight. I got a very close ticket.
That's super cool.
He was like otherworldly, just his reactions and just it sounds silly, but it was hard to explain.
Yeah.
Just a different type of athlete.
Interesting.
So I do love MMA.
Yeah.
And probably right now I'm just as into MMA as I am to boxing because I'm obviously intimately involved now with MMA. But Jimmy, who owns a promotion, they needed a backup announcer.
Okay.
Just because they only had one. If somebody gets sick, what do you do?
Makes sense.
So he reached out and he knows that, I'll get in front of anybody. I'll grab them and I'll talk. That's just my personality. And what's funny is when I was in college, I used to sweat profusely if I ever had to get up and speak in front of anybody.
Well, I hope you haven't seen me sweat too much.
No, I haven't. But I was very, very concerned when I was young to speak in front of people. So complete opposite now. But he called me up and said, "Hey, I need a backup announcer to do the first couple fights every night for MMA. I think you'd be good at it. What do you think?" And I was like, I don't know if I'd be good at it.
That's
but
fair.
Give me the mic. I'll try it.
Hell yeah.
So just like with anything I do, I did a little research. I was like, you know what? Let me put a tux on.
Yeah.
I'll put a tux. I'll get the tux press. I use my wedding tux. And the rest is history. No, I had a lot of fun with it. And I used to go to all the MMA shows locally too in the Northeast. So it gives me an opportunity to get backstage, to appreciate the sport that I love more, to also learn about the sport more. And interestingly enough, when they recently asked me to become the head announcer and do the main events, which I'm really excited about, because I've never done a main event fight yet. And, I always wanted to go a little insane in the cage, but you can't do that on the prelim fights.
Yeah, you don't want to.
You can't start shaking cages and everybody's But interestingly enough, I decided to start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training.
Really?
I'm doing it with Matt Santos, who's like a local legend, 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
That's right.
And I'm not doing it to fight, but this is my personality. I wanted to understand the sport more. I wanted to understand what it feels like to get your neck cranked out.
I've never had my neck cranked, so I can't speak to that.
So I wanted to immerse myself more in the sport and give and pay homage and respect to the combatants that are just putting it all on the line.
That's right.
Being that close to the sport, I've been able to realize like how hard it is, the sacrifice, and it's a really cool thing to see. So, shout out to Jimmy Birchfield Jr. and CES MMA for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah.
The first show that I have the main event is at Foxwoods on March 18th.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go a little nutty.
You're gonna go a little nutty. All right,
bit.
I'm gonna be there.
I don't care. I'm just gonna,
I don't care who's there.
If it comes off goofy, it comes off goofy. But
Hey,
I'm gonna reach down
As you should.
and get at it.
As you should.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I can't wait. I'm excited. I hope that if anyone's viewing this prior to then, I'll see you there. And come say hi,
Yeah.
Come say hi.
Come say hi to me too. Just yell through the cage.
Yeah, right? That's great. That's really cool. That's so.
Yeah, it's fun. It really is.
So
I have
fun.
a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I believe
It's
it.
not even a job,
That's a thing too. It's not a job. It seems like it's just a passion or a hobby, and it's transpired into something that you've just been able to have fun with. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So, I didn't know you maybe a month ago, but from a glance, I was able to see a lot of the things that you do, but also that you're somebody who is creating content, and not only yourself, but through following North Point Bank PVD on Instagram, I am able to see other LOs and other people who are also utilizing the space, creating content for themselves. Outside of even that, I was able to see that the Power Podcast Instagram account, you have been for quite some time saying, hey, if you want to start creating content, I have space here and you can utilize it for free.
Yep.
So what has motivated you to begin creating content, and what do you think is maybe beneficial from doing so?
So the content, obviously if you're trying to grow your business, or you want to get some content out there to help people, like there's so many ways that good, positive content can benefit people, individuals, businesses. In ours, it's North Point Bank. It's potentially realtors and home buyers that we're trying to reach because we provide the financing. But, the podcasts are a hot topic now. A lot of people are creating content, and the barriers of entry are not too crazy, but the biggest barrier of entry is having a space to do so. And when I decided that I was going to do a podcast, and I started looking around, there's really not many options in the state. In fact, I only found one.
Wow.
So that's why I decided to open the studio in our office, because I knew if it was in my office on the same floor, I would be able to utilize it more. And as I went through the process and the expenses of setting it up, I realized why there's not more podcast studios, because it's almost, it would be very hard to make money on a podcast studio.
That's fair.
So I decided, hey, it's sitting here. Why don't I open this up to content creators? Because ultimately that's my attitude with everything. And I think when it comes to resources, I think people need to share more.
That's fair.
And what good would this studio do if it just sat here dormant for 30 days doing nothing?
That's fair.
A lot of people reach out, and it's not that I censor people, but I make it very clear. Listen, if you're using the studio, positive messaging.
That's right.
Like it should be, whatever that message is, whether I agree with it or not, I could care less, but let's be positive.
Yeah.
Do something that helps people.
Yeah.
Create content that helps people.
Yeah.
If you have something you need to get off your chest, create the content.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits to creating content. And what I didn't realize, I initially had like a podcast journey where I wanted to create a podcast. It's very difficult for me to continually produce content with everything going on in my life. So this kind of pivoted more into me creating content, but it's more of kind of like a pay it forward studio for people. And I get much more joy out of it, to be honest with you. Like I'll continue to create podcasts, but I just don't have the time to do them,
That's fair.
3, 4, 5, because it's really, you have to do multiple podcasts a month. I don't have the time for it, but what makes me happy is that others are creating content in here, and even like a younger guy like you, good energy. This was kind of the springboard for you to release your podcast. And I'm happy that I was able to, and the studio played a role in you getting content out. And this is good. This is good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Hopefully
much.
others see it and they reach out. And, again, we don't charge anybody to use the space.
Which is crazy. I tell my friends and they're like, oh, so how did this come about? And, oh, so how much is it? It must be expensive. I'm like, I don't even want to tell them. I'm like,
so for some reason, it doesn't resonate with people because everything whenever you hear something's free, it's like, not.
No. Yeah.
Like I'm in here selling candy when something.
You must be. All right, you got to buy the Girl Scout cookies on the way out.
Yeah.
That's great. So with that, podcasting and content creation, I've also seen that you've had appearances on the Rhode show, and you've been a contributor there. What is that like? How do you get to a place where you're a contributor on the Rhode show, and what's your experiences been like?
So that started years back, and somebody asked me to go on as paid promotion. So we went on. And it was taped. I had a good experience with it. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And it was different type of content, and they liked the real estate aspect, they liked the finance aspect. So they asked me to come back, and I didn't do it live for a long time, mainly because, you know, you think live TV. What if I say something crazy, man?
Yeah. What if I get out of character?
Or what if I just like
just black out?
Yeah. You know, and don't say anything. So
yeah.
I did it for a couple of years, and then I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go live. I'm going to do it. And for the last year and a half, I've been doing it live, and it's really cool. It's cool to see what goes into it. It's cool to see the sets, the production of it.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun. And for me, doing things like CES and the live announcing, especially when it's featured on UFC Fight Pass, which a lot of their fights are. I know thousands and tens of thousands of people are watching.
Yeah.
Doing things like the Roadshow Live have helped me really take an opportunity like that and say yes to it. Because maybe if I was asked that 4 years ago, I would have doubted myself and said, hey, I don't know if I can execute that live.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, opportunity, if opportunity is there and it makes sense and I can carve out enough time to do it, I'm doing it. And that's always been my attitude. Like, you know, take every meeting. You never know what can happen from a conversation. So I'm always all about that. Like, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, same.
You know, somebody reaches out and, hey, let's get lunch. I want to pick your brain. I want to talk. Like, I've always been great.
Yeah.
Here's a couple dates. Let me know what works.
Yep.
You know, and when you hear hey, I'm too busy, sorry, that doesn't sit well with me.
I agree.
You know, nobody's too busy. It's just you can just say no.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
But the too busy thing, I have a hard time with that from people.
I believe it. Question. So one of my good friends, Tim Wheeler, he always asks me questions, and he and we hold each other accountable. Actually, every week we meet and we talk about things that we want to do. Great friend. He also just welcomed his son. Congratulations again. But he always says to me, he'll ask me a question, and I'll be like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll not. And then he's like, well, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. Would you say that you're a firm believer in that, and like being gung-ho about what you want to do, and just if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no? Or would you say there's room for, you know?
Yeah, well, I would generally agree with that, but I also think it's timing. Like, you could say no to something just because, you know, and I look back I only say yes to things I know that I can execute. So I might say no to something because it's a timing thing, or I think that I can't put enough into it that's required for both sides. Generally, I do agree because I know personally, I'm not doing anything unless I look at it like, you know, if a car company's making like they have a certain quality required, they're not going to produce cars at a level below it. So push it aside.
Makes sense.
I'm definitely an all-in type of guy, and having that mentality, if you really are a hell yeah and an all-in type of person, you have to say no.
That's fair.
And some people can't say no. I know a lot of people, well, let me, like it really is, especially when you get older and you have a lot of things going on, it should be yes or no. Or, you know what? Give me 48 hours. I'll get back. Sense. That's fine. You don't need to answer things, you know.
And I think that's important. That's something that I'm going to take away from this conversation. And maybe some people who are listening will too. You know, you can be asked something, or somebody can send you a text or a message. We are so accustomed to this instant gratification or this instant response. Maybe it's best sometimes to just take a second, you know, think about yourself, what you can commit to, and then go forward with those exact things. So
not to be emotional, and you know, you might be having a bad day and somebody asks you something on a Monday and you react differently than if you got that same text or call on a Wednesday.
That's right.
That's why sometimes you have to take a step back, breathe a little bit, and you really can't let, you know, emotion get into it. And I think one of the things that we didn't touch on, but I do think it's really important, you know, the reading aspect and things that I've learned from books. One of the biggest takeaways that I've ever gotten from any book has to do with the Four Agreements, a book that I would absolutely recommend anybody listening. I can't promise that you'll like it. It's a little bit of a abstract type of thinking book, but it really just talks about people. And, you know, so many people in this world get offended by others and things that they say. Think about the last person that you were mad at, right? Yeah. Can you think about that?
I can immediately.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we won't talk about
no names. Yeah.
All right. So think about that situation. Yeah. Somebody pissed you off, right?
Yep.
And it was by their actions, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the teaching in this book is basically this, and it's so simple, But if you can grasp it and apply it to your life, the rest of your life will change. So let's take a step back. That individual that did something to you that got you upset, it's still in your head, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when did it happen?
This week.
Okay, this week. The teaching in this book is this. Whatever is done to you, whether somebody says something to you, somebody does something physically to you, somebody hurts you mentally, whatever it is, the actions that occurred were from their perspective and it came from their side. So although it affected you, everybody is living their own life, dreaming their own dream. They decided to do that, and it was their actions. It wasn't necessarily something that was done personally against you. Those were their actions that they put onto you.
That makes
right?
sense.
And it talks about not taking things personally.
Yeah.
So in other words, you got pissed off because of the actions, but it was their actions. It had nothing really to do with you. You were affected, but everybody has their own perspective on things, their own way to deal with things. And maybe I didn't explain that like perfectly from the book, but that's like the main teaching. Yeah. Just don't take anything personal.
I like it. That's so fair.
And you can make the decision just to say, hey, if it was a big enough thing that makes you upset so that you don't want that person in your life, get them out of your life.
That's fair.
Get them out of your head.
That's so true. And, I think that's important for people to think about sometimes because, like you mentioned, everyone is living their own lives. They have all of the things that are going on from their day-to-day, their family, exterior things that could be happening, and it's really interesting how sometimes something can be said to you and you perceive it one way, and the way that someone else said it to you, they perceived it a different way. And all of these things that people end up taking personally. But it's really important, like you're saying, to just not take it personally. Think about how, that's their action. It's not necessarily...
It's their life, their action.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's not you. It's them.
and they could have been affected. And that's not even like a blame place.
Yeah.
They could have been affected in their life by something which caused them to act or do something that's outside of their character.
That's right.
Again, it doesn't mean you need to call the person up and say, oh my God, you take it for what it's worth. Maybe that person isn't good in your life, but ultimately you need to understand it wasn't personal.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I
like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've talked about being in the mortgage banking industry. We've talked about being a leader, that you are a natural born leader, at least from what I can tell. I can wholeheartedly say so. We've talked about how you've given back to the community, and the proof of it is me being here. But CES MMA, ring announcer, contributions on the Rhode show. Outside of everything that you do that has to fall into the bucket of quote unquote work, what are some of the things that you like to do in your free time?
Well, right now it's spending time with my son, spending time with my family, my wife, my son. And I'm actually a very, very passionate skier. I grew up skiing at a very young age. I used to teach skiing actually at Yagu, local place. I used to teach little kids how to ski.
Oh, wow.
So when I'm not working, I'm trying to be up north in Vermont, skiing and spending time with my family. So, I'm a very on-off type of person, meaning, if I'm in the office, like whatever time I leave today, it's a Friday. I pay attention to my phone. I pay attention to email on the weekends because I'm in real estate and sometimes things come up. Yeah. But I'm a very on-off person. When I'm out of the office, I'm off.
That's fair.
I'm back home. My phone's away. I'm paying attention to my family. What are we doing this weekend? We usually go on Sundays, take my son to lunch.
Nice.
So I really try to be in that moment and feed my personal life, because I think the biggest misconception people have in life when it comes to, maybe even business and success is, go for success at any cost, give up everything that you can, work 26 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then once you reach success, then go back, then your life is going to be great, right? Yeah. Then you're going to be able to do A, B, and C, travel, buy this, cars, all this stupid stuff that really doesn't mean anything.
That's fair.
It's actually the opposite. You have to get your life in order, your life balance in order, your priorities straight. You have to make good decisions. And you can still build your business while you're doing that, but you'll never really truly attain the success that you need or want to without having a balanced personal life and lifestyle. So to me, you have to build that first, and that will feed your business growth. A lot of people do it the opposite way.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a mistake.
That is. And I realized that, especially with even some of the hobbies that have moved into, this, right? a lot of people, I think, they wait. They say, oh, I want to start a podcast. I want to do this or that. And they say, well, I can't do that. I have a 9 to 5, it doesn't make sense. I'll wait till I don't have a 9 to 5 once I'm, really established and I have the time to do it, that I'll start something. But I think it makes so much more sense to get that thing that you want to do going while you have, your other thing already in the works, don't wait for something to change to actually do what you want.
And that's listen, that's a great lesson. And that's the main reason why you see people all over in different phases of life and different phases of success, whether it's business life or, family life. And that's probably the best lesson you can have, especially if you're listening. And, there's always this thing in the back of everybody's head, whether it's one thing, two things, three things that they've wanted to accomplish. And at the end of the day, it's up to every one of us to execute if it's really that important. And I think the biggest mistake people make is waiting.
Waiting, right?
I look at people will ask me like, "Oh, you got so much going on, and how do you?" And I'm like, I don't know, like you just make it work.
Yeah.
That's and fair. And when I started to go out and do all these other things besides my primary, I would always think to like an Elon Musk, and like what his day must be.
Oh,
like,
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So if I feel tired, I'm like, I literally just think of a guy like him, and I'm like, yeah, okay. He might sleep an hour and a half a day running 5 companies.
Right.
Obviously just acquired Twitter. That was a little bit of a disaster.
Oh man, I think so too.
He's been quiet a little bit, which is probably good for him.
It's better.
It's better for him. But I think about his day. So if I'm ever like, I pounding my chest, I got a lot going on. I'm like, dude, never. How does Elon Musk get through today?
Yeah, that's oh my god.
If you think about that, so like when you think about people that either want to get out, do a podcast, create content, open a second business, and they're just waiting and sitting around for what? For what? Millions of other people have done it.
Exactly.
Not to say that it isn't special, but you can do it.
I agree.
It's just the execution.
Do it.
Just get up and do it. And don't think about it. Like
I agree.
Sometimes when I wake up and I'm like, it's 6:20 and I got to go to the gym and I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't feel like it. Yeah. Literally, I shut my mind off and I just get in the car.
Okay.
And I just don't think about it. And sometimes that's how you have to be in life. Like if there's something in the back of your head you want to do, forget thinking about it. Just do it. Go through the motions and execute. Stop thinking about failure. Stop thinking about I don't have enough time. Stop thinking about all of that.
I'm tired.
Block it out.
Say,
do it.
Yeah. I love that. Love that. Please, if you're listening and you have something in your mind that you've been thinking about, and you think it's a good idea, it's good for you, it might be good for the people around you, the only thing I'm going to say is do it. And I know you know this already, but do it.
Simple lessons, man.
Do it. Okay. We've talked a lot about work. We've talked about some of the things that you like to do outside of work. We're going to close now. One question that I have for you is, has there been anyone who's been really influential in your life? This could be a person, or this could be even, a book, or just anything that has happened, or something that really has inspired you to become the person who you are today.
That's a multi-leveled question and answer. So a couple of things. I absolutely have mentors. And anybody that's successful that says that they don't have a mentor is definitely lying. So I've had a couple, a business mentor, as in my boss right now, Ralph Vidiello. He's an executive at North Point. Somebody that has taught me the importance to have a balance, work hard, but also enjoy life, not just accumulate, enjoy. And to me, as I've become more successful, the one thing that he's taught me is you have to live. You can't put it all away. So I try to have a nice balance of working hard, saving money, but also spending money, and not on luxury items. Vacations. Spending time together. I acquired a property in Vermont last year, a ski condo, and that was a life goal of mine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you know how many memories we have in a year and a half in the Vermont condo? I mean, we have 12 people going up next week. Like, that's why I did that.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to live, not just work. Jimmy Birchfield, that we mentioned earlier, he's an attorney and he owns CES. He owns multiple companies.
Okay.
He was a really good life mentor for me when I was younger and single, didn't have kids, didn't have a wife. He was running multiple companies, great father, great husband. He was just like, he had the perfect life as far as I was concerned, in balance in everything.
Yeah.
So he was a huge mentor and supporter. And, I cherish the conversations that I've had, and he's helped me probably more than he even realizes.
Yeah.
Book-wise, The Four Agreements and The Alchemist. The Alchemist is a very, very abstract book. You have to read it a couple times, but the teaching of The Alchemist, and I'm actually reading it again for the third time,
nice.
is to go after, they call it a personal legend, but it basically teaches the fact of life is it's very short, and most people don't attain what they really want to out of life because they don't take the risk and they don't pay attention to, the signs and the surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big teaching for The Alchemist where, if something's that important to you, then go for it.
Yeah.
That's it. So those books, those mentors, were really influential, and I'm still at this point, like I still need to grow. There's still more things I want to do. So I'm still just really trying to pay attention and focus on keeping everything tight, balanced. And I probably use the balance word 5 times a day.
Makes sense, though.
Because, that's the only way that I could handle the business side. If my life, if there's balance, and it's just like continuity, continual flow. That's right. Work into business, work, That's
right.
And taking time off, right?
That's right.
Everybody has these, I got to work 22 hours a day. Forget that.
Yeah.
I forget that.
Too. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You got to work hard, but you also have to live.
I appreciate that. I look at you and I see you, I think, oh my God, Zach's up. He's already up. He's doing this and that. And, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy. And for you to say, it's important to take some time off.
Yeah, I'll be off. I'm taking next Thursday and Friday off because we're going up to Vermont skiing with my family.
Good.
It is what it is.
Good.
I'll pay attention. I'll be there if needed. But listen, if you can't take a couple of days off, then you don't have your life and infrastructure set up correctly.
That's fair.
Got to take time.
That's fair. I love that. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who is either starting out in their career and they are saying, oh, I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe mortgage banking sounds interesting to me. And they come across a guy like you and they say, okay, wow, he's done a lot. He's still doing a lot. I want to be like him. What advice would you give to someone who maybe wants to take the same journey as you?
Mortgage banking, it's hard because you just have to go through the reps and you have to gain the experience. I think in my field, having an understanding of how economics and finance work is super, super important. And the other piece, as social media, marketing, branding evolves, and as we've seen how much it's evolved since we all have phones at our fingertips, understanding how to promote and market yourself is almost as important. So if you want to get into banking, mortgages, number one, study, immerse yourself, understand finance, put on Squawk Box like I do every single morning. Pay attention to stocks, finance, the Fed, eat, sleep, and breathe, real estate. Real estate is fun.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about it. And number two, have an understanding and have the ability to market yourself. You put all that stuff together and, you're an outgoing person, you know how to network.
Yep.
You're going to knock it out of the park.
Love that. Well, hopefully that's been really helpful for anyone who's out there and interested in mortgage banking or just being a person who wears multiple hats, is able to be there for their family, be there for themselves, be there for other people. This was awesome. This was great. And I thank you so much for giving me an opportunity just to come into this space, get to meet someone like you, and some other people who I hopefully will meet, and you guys will meet too. With that, we're out of here. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.